Here we have a powerful excerpt from a sermon from our next guest, Minister Zoe McDowell.
Jesus died on the cross. When he died on the cross, he took authority over all things, and then he left us with the Comforter. He left us with the Holy Spirit. And so when you accept Jesus Christ in your life, you are moving with the power, the empowerment of the Holy Spirit. And he's going to help you discern and figure out if you should or should not be engaged in certain things. And so I want us to remember that you have the power to keep in step.
Good people. Welcome to another episode of Generation Motivation, the podcast. I am your host, Jay Snipes, aka the podcaster of the people. First and foremost, as always, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Thank you for all the love, support. Continue to share, continue to send me ideas on topics, and we're just gonna keep this train rolling. Now, normally, for those that rock with the podcast, I normally rock solo, but I want to do something a little bit different this particular time. And instead of me introducing my special guest, I wanted to bring my daughter on to introduce our guest, because the backstory, I feel like I'm end up doing an introduction, but the backstory is our guest actually was a guest speaker at our church. Phenomenal job, very energetic, very positive spirit. And my daughter was blessed to be the one to actually introduce her. So I said, you know what? I don't think I can top that introduction. So since I had the person that actually delivered that introduction, why not invite her onto the podcast as well? So my daughter Sanaya is with us for the introduction. Sanaya.
Hello. Miss Zoe McDowell is the daughter of two loving parents and pastors, Lucius and Donna McDowell of Agape International Ministries in Hampton, Georgia. She is also the big sister to one of her best friends, Victoria McDowell. Zoe is a proud native of McDonough, Georgia, and an even prouder graduate of the Clark Atlanta University.
The Clark Atlanta. You gotta say the. Clark.
Mm-hmm. Graduating in 2017 with a BS in biology, she went on to earn her MS in health science from Meharry Medical College in 2020. While co-leading a student-led campus ministry at Meharry for several years, Zoe's call to ministry was acknowledged, and she was granted her minister's license in 2019. Zoe now serves as youth minister at Bethel World Outreach Church in Brentwood, Tennessee. She is extremely passionate about youth and young adults. Her heart longs for young people to know the love of God and to live a fruitful life through the transformative revelation and power of Jesus Christ. In her spare time, Zoe enjoys a good workout, the best music her playlist can offer, and roller skating to her heart's content. Welcome to the podcast, Zoe.
Thank you. Thank you so much tonight. That was so awesome.
Thanks, baby. All right. How does that make you feel? Good gracious. That warm welcome.
Look, I'm always... One, she was so precious and sweet when I came to visit you all in Atlanta. And so just to see her face and her welcome me on has been awesome. I love it.
Great. Yeah, like Sanaya said, definitely welcome to Generation Motivation, the podcast. As I was saying in the beginning, it was just something about that energy, when you were delivering your speech, very magnetic personality, and obviously.
Thank you.
Yeah. And like I was saying off camera, I definitely wanted to have you on the podcast because the youth, man, that's the youth. I don't know if I would say that the youth are lost. I don't want to bunch everyone together. But what I was saying, off camera was the fact that, the youth have gone through a lot in these last 3 years. And, some of the scenarios that they've been put in is just unbearable. And they're just now, starting to kind of dig their way out. Before we on that particular topic, which we're going to circle back around, I wanted you to be able to, kind of introduce yourself outside of what Teresa, I'm talking to my wife now. Well, outside of what, outside of what Sanaya, was able to, speak on about you. So just kind of share a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm Zoe McDowell. Like Sanaya said, I'm the youth minister at Bethel Road Outreach Church here in Brentwood, Tennessee. I have two awesome pastors, Pastor James and Deborah Lowe. And so I get to serve their ministries, serve about a group of maybe 60 kids each week. And I just love what I get to do in the community here in Nashville. I'm also originally from Georgia, okay? I'm gonna shout out the A, even though I don't get to claim a zone. I can't claim a zone because I'm from McDonough.
Okay.
But born and raised out there, loved everything about home. Trying to find a way to get home soon. Okay, I got to get back to mom and dad and my family. But yeah, absolutely a joy to be able to do what I do. I have a background in biology and science. And now I'm doing work in ministry and kids, which has always been my heart for a long time. And so we're seeing the best of both worlds and excited for where God is taking us in the next however many years.
Right.
Yep. That's my little tidbit.
That's your little tidbit. So how does it feel to be called Minister McDowell? I know, right? All right.
My goodness. Right. Okay. So my parents are both pastors. I have grown up in ministry for a long time. And so to hear people try to call me that, I want to run from it sometimes. I'm like, oh yeah, no, wait. I'm still little Zoe. You know what I'm saying? I'm still, a regular person. But I also do recognize that, having that title and that mantle doesn't come without sacrifice. It doesn't come without a price. And so it's an honor to be called minister. But every time someone throws it out, I'm like, ooh, me? Are you sure you talking about me?
Right.
Yeah. But it's okay. But literally at my church, people just call me Zoe. So okay. I love the casual, relatable connection.
Okay. So I have permission to call you Zoe. Now I'm giving you
absolutely. Please. Please call me Zoe.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
So as you said, you graduated from college at the Clark Atlanta University.
At
the Clark Atlanta University. So I guess at what point, how did you make that transformation? Let's take it back even before, you went off to college, because, going to college, trying years, even with you being, child of, of pastors and what, a lot of times, it's a lot tougher. Because you're held to such a higher standard. Oh my gosh, is that a pastor's kid over there doing that and dancing that way and hanging out with blah blah blah. So how was it growing up in the household? And I know you said that was I know you said it was always probably on your heart to maybe make the stride towards ministry at some point. But how was it in that type of household?
Wow. Okay. So my parents are great. We're an interesting family. I'll say that. I think my dad is like super outgoing. He's the life of the party. My mom can be a little bit more to herself, but if you get her in the right space, she's also going to be the life of the party. And whenever she chimes in, we all fall out cackling, laughing because she kind of jumps in our family shenanigans. But yeah, growing up as a pastor's kid, it's what you would expect. You see. You're in a light that people are always kind of looking at you in and making sure hey, is she doing the right things? They have great expectations for us. They want you to be in positions of leadership. And so there was that aspect of it. I think one thing that I could appreciate about my parents is that when they started our church, which Agape has been in existence for, I think we're coming up on 30 years. But just thank you. Yes. But an awesome just ministry that my parents have started, and they I said 30 years. I'm backing up. Agape got started when I was 4. I'm 27. I'm getting to 30 years. Help me, Jesus. Okay. I'm getting to 30 years. Okay. So Agape is going on 24.
It's still a lot of years.
It's a lot of years. We're getting closer to 25. That's what it is.
Yes. Okay.
But when they started the ministry, they made a ton of sacrifices. But I think one thing that we always hear in ministry is to make sure that you do not sacrifice your family on the altar of ministry. And so I could appreciate that my parents are present. My parents were involved. My dad is the ultimate father. Okay, he's going to show up for his girl anytime he can. I ran track and field a lot growing up. I ran track and field for about 7 years.
Okay.
And so my parents would come to my track meets when they could. They were investing in, our preparation for college. They were making sure that they're showing up at parent conferences. They just wanted to make sure that they were present in our lives. And everybody knew, like, oh, that's Zoe's dad. That's Zoe's mom.
Right.
And so I could appreciate being in a household that, revered the Lord and put our resources and our heart towards what God was calling my parents to do, but also having the balance of still being able to be a child that was a part of the McDowell clan.
Good. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, like you said, because I mean, it is tough. It is tough when, especially both parents being pastors, and then it's like you're sharing so much of yourself being a pastor, because everyone looks to you to try to help solve problems, even though you're supposed to look to the Lord, but obviously they use another vessel that they come to.
Right, that's right.
Right. So, and so I can see where that would definitely be a challenge, being able to kind of split that time. But it's beautiful that, knowing that they have the church, and they have to, of course, give unto themselves, but they want to make sure that the family is taken care of as well and covered. So that's awesome. That's a lot. That is definitely a lot. So
it is.
Kudos to them.
Yes, kudos to Donna and Lucius. I don't call them their first names to their face, though. Okay. To their face, they're mommy and daddy. But when they're not in the room, I call them Donna and Lucius.
Right. Okay. Respect. I get it. So tell me about, I guess, tell me about a time where, I feel like it's a job interview now, but tell me about a time where you found yourself kind of having doubts, maybe in terms of, am I like growing up in that household and seeing everything that they had before them and leading a church, like, am I going to be able to do that? You know what I'm saying? Do I have the strength? Do I have the know-how? You said that they always want to put you in positions of leadership. I mean, I think that's the best thing that you can do for your child, being able in positions of leadership, being able to put them out there in front of, in front of people, and let them know, hey, you're going to make your mistakes and you're going to have your bumps and bruises. But, like I was saying, you have to have this muscle memory. Like when you were a child and you did it, like, it's the most traumatic thing in the world for you to, trip walking on stage. Oh my gosh, I can't. Everybody was looking at me. I was walking on stage and I tripped. You know what I'm saying? But as you grow older and you start to see, I trip, fall, tumble. As long as I get up there and do what I'm supposed to do, that's all that really matters. You know what I'm saying? Because you have your muscle memory. But were there ever times where you had like doubts that, I don't know if maybe going into ministry is for me? Am I built for it?
Goodness. Yeah, I mean, I think with as it pertains to ministry, I think one of the things that is really people just don't think about all the pieces that come along with saying yes to that position, saying yes to that call. And I saw it firsthand. So I was really, when the moment presented itself, I was like, am I really about to do this? Am I really about to do this? I think there were, no one, knows that people are calling your pastors at midnight or 1 a.m. to come to hospitals and pray, or there's something going traumatically in someone's family, and they're the people that are being called to help, mitigate and calm the situation down, or there's so much that you just don't anticipate when you are, looking, you see the man of God in the pulpit, you see the woman of God in the pulpit, and you're like, oh, that's amazing gift, that's amazing call that they're walking in. But there's just so many other pieces. And so when the time for Zoe to walk in that call came, I was like, okay, I think I knew I was called to do it. And I knew that because of the way that the seasons of my life had kind of put me into position for it. And then I also had the heart for it growing up. And so I'm like, okay, I want to do this. I at least want to give it a shot before, we say no. But there have been times in it that have been trying. And there have been moments where I've had to even call my parents and say, like, hey, how do you deal with this? How do you navigate these situations? because right now I'm starting to sound like I don't belong, or maybe I don't know that I can do this.
Yeah.
But my parents, especially my daddy, and my daddy, he is like, when I tell you, a number one cheerleader for his kids. My parents are amazing. My mom absolutely, hands down, loves us. My dad is going to turn over tables. He's burning down buildings. He is doing anything that he can do to make sure that his girls are together, which is what a daddy should do.
Yeah.
And so he, giving advice and coaching me, like, hey, wait a minute, you sound real defeated. Come on back.
Yeah.
He'll send me scriptures. He'll pray with me. So but there are definitely moments that you encounter that question of like, hey, can I do this? Can I fit? Can I fill these big shoes? Can I fill any shoes? What are my shoes? Do I have shoes? Are they for me?
Right.
Are they my size?
Exactly.
And I think as you're like growing, just going through life, you're trying to find your shoes. You're trying to find your fit. And so to have a resounding voice in your corner that's telling you like you can do it, you are capable, you are more than enough, it's necessary. It's necessary.
Gotta have that support system. That's
for sure.
Gotta have that support system. And the fact that you were able to make that transition into ministry, and following those footsteps. Now with your parents, did they, I guess at their church, did they have like specifically someone that was over the youth ministry, or was it kind of like everyone was all together, or how?
We had youth ministers at my home church.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And did you kind of shadow the youth minister to figure out?
So yeah, when I was in high school, I was a student leader.
Okay.
In our youth ministry. And when I was in high school, I think it was like going into my sophomore year of high school, I just got really on fire for God. Yeah. And was like, look, I'm excited. I would be picking people. When I got my license, I would go around the city, pick up all the kids. We going to church tonight. It's Wednesday. Like, I would be so excited. And so there would be moments where I could help be a leader in those aspects. As a student leader, we were also like given positions on the board of trustees to have some insight, or to provide some insight for what the ministry might have needed, or what we wanted the vision for the youth ministry to go. And then when I got into college, I would come home and still help out with our youth ministry. And my last year of undergrad, before I went into, I graduated from undergrad, and that summer in between, I actually had to step in as the interim youth minister at my parents' church before I came to Nashville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so, there are moments where like I got to see, the youth ministers and kind of shadow them and walk alongside them. But then there was also a time where my dad was like, hey, can you hold it down for these 2-3 months? I was like, all right, let's go. So I was ready.
Do you remember your first sermon?
I do. My first sermon. I do. I actually taught my first sermon while I was in college. I remember I was praying and just spending time in my word. And I feel like the Lord just deposited a whole sermon. And I was like, where did that come from? Beyond me. And I told my youth minister, I said, hey, I think I have a word for like our kids back at home. And he's like, come on, do it. And I came home and they were like, oh my gosh, can you come back next week? Like, can you come do this again?
Really?
Yeah. I taught on when Jesus was talking about the parables about the different types of soil. And, there being hard soil when the seed doesn't break the soil and it, gets scorched by the sun, or the birds come and take it away. And the seed that is actually planted in the heart is the one that takes fruit and grows and germinates and actually produces good fruit and a plant. And so just like encouraging us to get in it, stay true to it. When the enemy comes and tries to be crazy with you, still hold on to it, so that you can walk in the fruitfulness that the Lord wants us to.
See, that's one. See, I want y'all to, did y'all hear that? And that was off the top of the dome. You see that? I'm just saying that, and that's the type of energy that you brought to our church. But also, seriously, and that's the type of energy I think that the youth need. A lot of times, and I'm guilty of it, and I'm gonna throw my wife in there too. We're both guilty of it, having children 15 and 12, and a lot of things that there is some disconnect. We swear up and down, you know, we think that we know what's what and the trends. And, I'm trying to tell this and that, and like, yeah, Dad, they don't even do that anymore. Like, what? Are you serious?
That's not how to work, Daddy. We don't say that anymore.
Right, exactly. The slang.
What are some of the things they tell you that's not in anymore? What is something that you're trying to give them and they be like,
Some of the, I guess, the dress, like some of the, some of the things that we wear. I'm like, I'm on social media too. I see them, they do wear it now.
They said we just don't wear it.
Right.
They said we just don't wear it. I love it.
Hey, I don't do a lot of skinny jeans and stuff like that, so I don't know about that. I don't really know, but
I love it. I love it.
But yeah, so but like I said, I think, and I'm gonna bring Mr. Hawkins back in when I say this as well, because he's done a phenomenal job at our church.
Yes.
Whenever you're able to make children want to go to church, like sometimes, as adults, and you have a busy schedule, and man, I feel like sleeping in a little bit. The kids pop up. We're going to church, right?
Yeah,
we go.
They holding you accountable. That's good.
Hey,
I don't announce the days. They said, let's go.
Hey, seriously, holding us accountable, which is a beautiful thing. So, awesome. And I think if you can reach the youth and have them, buy into the whole mentality of, I'm getting fed when I go into church. It's not, I'm not just, sitting there and listening to someone, talk to me, not even necessarily preach, but just kind of talk to me, and it's over my head, and I can't, I know what they're feeding me is good, but I can't break it down and digest it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think it's awesome for, for churches to be able to have, ministers such as yourself and Minister Hawkins that have really bought into it and that are able to bridge that gap. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely a beautiful thing. Definitely a beautiful thing.
Praise God. Yeah. Amen. Praise the Lord.
So I guess let's kind of talk a little bit about, once you got your license and you actually made that leap of faith and said, you know what, I have the strength, I have the wisdom. Obviously we always a work in progress, so we don't
for sure.
Don't have all the answers, but kind of, I guess, tell us a little bit about that transition that you made.
Transition into ministry.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Man. So honestly, that was a God thing, and I couldn't have even created that for myself. I, at the time, I was getting my master's at Meharry Medical College, and I graduated with that in 2020. And of course, 2020, the world was in shambles.
Yes.
No one knew, up from down, left from right. It was just, everything was going crazy. And so when I had graduated, I said, oh no, the plan that I once had is no longer intact.
Right.
And so at that time, I had served with my church as an administrative assistant to our youth ministry the year prior. And my pastor called me. He was like, look, if you don't after this degree, if the plan doesn't work, you coming right back here. He said, you call me. He said, because you have some giftings that we really want to, we want to make sure that we bring into our culture. Mm-hmm. And so I called him, and he was like, it's Christmas in May. He was so excited.
Yes.
And so I ended up transitioning back to our youth ministry, but the person who was in the position who was overseeing it, they were having a child, and they're like, hey, they're going on maternity and paternity leave, hold down the youth ministry until they get back. And I was like, okay. I held it down until they got back. But when they got back, they transitioned into another position at the church. Oh. And so they're like, okay. They're like, Zoe, we believe that you can do this. Can you do this? Yeah. And I was like, I can do this. And so I was like, I feel like I've been trained for this. I've been, prepped for this, all the years that I've watched my parents do ministry, all the years that I've been able to contribute to ministry. And it's just been it's a bread and butter of mine. I love it. I think I am a crazy, loud, energetic, outgoing person, and youth ministry is where my personality actually makes sense to me. Right. If I was as crazy and loud as I was, in somebody's, workspace, they'd be like, security, can y'all come get this woman? Right. But so the opportunity then presented itself. And I had done classes and just I was like, Lord, this is the time. And so my parents gave me my minister's license, and they gave me their blessing, and I have been moving forward in it ever since.
That's awesome. So, once again, we're going to kind of circle back to that first topic when we were talking about, everything that's taking place over these past, 3 years. So what advice would you give to, I know, right? I'm putting you on the spot now. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone? I guess we'll just take it from the youth perspective. So what advice would you give to the youth that kind of still feel this disconnect, still feel like, even though COVID obviously is not over, and we're still feeling the residual effects of it, but I see so much that kind of goes on in the world in terms of the youth, with the mass shootings, with suicides, with cyberbullying. I mean, I feel like they're getting younger and younger. Just what word of encouragement would you give to the youth that feel lost at this point?
Man, I think, this season that we're coming out of has done a number on the next generation. And I think I would just encourage them with, like, and it's cliche, but like, it won't always be like this.
Yes.
And I know that sometimes as a young person, it's hard to see past what is right in front of you, what is happening directly around you. But it won't always be like this. Trouble won't last always. We say that in the church. But I think that if a student can see and recognize, if they can perceive just how bad the outside world is, if they can perceive just how crazy things are, that's actually a good thing. If they can say, you know what, there's a lot going on, and I don't know why people are doing this, I don't know why people are doing that, and can make the connection that the outside world is being crazy because they don't have a centering, they don't have a foundation, they don't have something to plant their faith in, then that's a beautiful thing, right? Then the encouragement and the connection point is, we have a foundation. We have a foundation that we can plant our feet in, that our faith can stand strong on, and that's Jesus Christ. And I didn't mean, I'm not trying to be churchy.
No, I want you to be churchy. No, seriously. Be churchy, yes.
Yeah, no, I think it is a beautiful thing when a student or a child can recognize that they don't want what's out there, but they can look at the fruit of what comes from a life in Jesus and say, I want what's in there. And then from that position, from that place, from that newness that comes with that decision of salvation, live different, walk different, act different, talk different, and then be the example to the outside world. That's how people get changed. I remember all of my high school, really my high school testimony is that I remember just being amongst a group of students, and we were cute and popular, but there was gossip, there was, people were being bullied, and I did not want anything to, I'm like, I don't like that. I would rather stand up for the person who you guys are making fun of, because that's a person. That person is still loved. That person is still a child of God. Like, can we extend love? Can we be different because it's good, right? And when I came and I got real serious about Jesus, I started reading my word, and I kind of had to ostracize myself. I had to separate myself from the people who were nagging, the people who were gossipers, the people who were drama prone. And I had to make the decision, like, hey, I don't want this to be my brand. I don't want this to be my story. And from that, I actually went through a season where I was lonely. I felt isolated. I had to find myself in Jesus Christ. And there would be moments I would cry, like, man, God, like, I really wish I had some friends right now. I wish I had this, that, and the third. And the Lord comforted me. And I know that sounds like a very abstract thing, and it can be to a young person, like the Lord coming and comforting you, but you'll see how he sends vessels to comfort you. And you'll say, okay, God, I see how you're moving, you're working. And I kid you not, because of the stance of separation and the love that I chose to give people in spite of what they gave others. It was like a 360. I mean, I'm sorry, a 180. A
Right. And
complete
360 don't
difference,
go
right?
back.
Look, we didn't go back. Okay, we ended up on the other side.
Right.
I went from being in a place of isolation and sadness to being a very popular and well-loved person, to the degree that I was on homecoming court. I was prom queen. I was like the one of the top seniors that the school had chosen to represent the school. Like it was just like I was like, whoa, God, what's going on? Like I could have never imagined what would have came, that all of those things would have come out of my obedience. But because the Lord was saying, hey, we're not going to identify with what's going on out here. We're not going to identify with, being, X, Y, and Z and doing X, Y, and Z and whatever everybody else is trying to do. We're going to be different. And you guys, I promise you that the world appreciates different. They might say that they don't. Okay, everybody's got to look this way. Everybody got to dress this way. Everybody's got to be this thing. But the world appreciates different. And when you stand confidently in your difference, that's when you see God do amazing things. And so I would encourage you all. I mean, I know it's been a hard season. It's been a rough season, but be optimistic. Know that trouble won't last always. The sun will come out, okay, tomorrow. Shout out to Annie.
Right.
There will be greater times than this. And if you can just be hopeful, if you can place your hope and your faith and your trust in something that is above, that will carry you past the next, couple of years, the next couple of months, I promise you'll see the sunshine.
One day at a time, right? One day at a time.
One day at a time.
One day at a time.
One day at a time, absolutely.
And you know what? And our time is running short. But
no!
I know, right? Good gracious! See,
we just got over here.
We just started. I have two questions that I always ask as I wind down. First question is, what do you want your legacy to be? Minister McDowell.
Minister.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy, and it's not even anything crazy deep. I just want people who encounter me to know that they encountered someone who is a vessel of the Lord. I want them to know that, like, I want them to say, hey, that girl right there, she was kind. She was loving. She gave her best effort in everything that she did. She was a hard worker. She cared for people. She did what she could when she could, how she could. I want my legacy to be my character. And I think that goes, precedes you for generations, because what happens is people will see you operating like that and they'll say, hey, I want to be the same. And so it's contagious, and it will continue to spread for generations and generations. So that's what I want my legacy to be.
And you see how you segue right into that final question, which is, I like generations and generations to come, but Generation Motivation, the podcast, I always ask this question: how do you feel as though you are motivating your generation and generations to come? And I think they kind of play hand in hand, but
yeah, I mean, I think with my job, for sure, I get to have my hands directly in a pool of young people, and I get to serve there, and I get to serve in a capacity that not a lot of people might see, as a young Black female youth minister in a position of leadership at a church. It's not that we're unicorns, but we're just a little bit underrepresented in some spaces. And so I think that it's been encouraging to hear other people say, man, like, I'm so glad that I got to see a Black female believer stand in the pulpit, or I'm so glad that I get to see a Black female leader lead a group of students or a group of people, a group of adults. And so in those ways, I think that, I am encouraging the next generation. But I'm wearing this t-shirt.
I was going to
it says,
I love it. I love the shirt.
Yes, thank you. It says IDK, and that's okay. And it's actually not launched yet, but this is going to be a part of my brand called Lilies Bloom. And blooming, celebrating the becoming, celebrating who you are to be, and those pieces that are in the middle. Sometimes we have plans for our life and they don't always go the way we think they should go. Sometimes we have to encounter things that might take us off track. But being okay with giving yourself grace in that, I think, is the key to being able to get to the other side. And so we can say, I don't know what's going on right now, and it's okay.
It's okay.
That will give us the courage and the confidence to keep moving, right? To keep going. And so in those ways, I'm praying that once it gets launched, that it's a blessing to people and that it really encourages people to, one, identify those spaces in their life that might have troubled them, that might have felt like failure, that might have felt like disappointment, and then being able to take that, give it a name, give it a space, celebrate it, and then move forward with what they were trying to accomplish. Because everyone's going to come to a place in their journey and in their road where there's a roadblock. And we've seen it in countless, biblical characters. I'm sure you got some stories where you had to overcome some things.
Boy, a lot of stuff. Yeah.
A lot of and we have to celebrate and be confident in where we're headed. And so being able to say, you know what, this is crazy, but I'm gonna let grace be grace, and I'm gonna grace myself. I'm gonna give grace to me. I'm gonna give grace to the experience, and I'm gonna let it. It's going to be okay in the end. I would love for that to be just a contagious, I'm thinking a viral thing that people like are just sharing their testimonies and encouraging each other. So hopefully that comes out, and hopefully it encourages the next generation. But I am grateful to be at the beginning stages and to be walking in it, in faith.
There you go. Exactly. Hey, and like I said earlier, we all work in progress. So we don't know everything, and that's fine. We learn as we continue to walk in faith. Taking baby steps.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to thank you first and foremost for.
Thank you.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you first and foremost for not only joining us on the podcast and sharing your words of inspiration, but I want to thank you for walking in purpose. I want to thank you for having the courage to isolate yourself, like you said, and understand that, hey, I'm here for a bigger purpose. I have to. I have to break myself down and rebuild. And so you are definitely an inspiration, and you're definitely making a positive effect on our community. So thank you so much. We definitely
thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
You.
I gotta celebrate you, because without you walking in your purpose, I wouldn't be here on this podcast to share anything. Okay. So I am grateful that you are walking in the things that you believe that God has prompted you to do. This is amazing.
Thank you so much. And you, the listener, as we wind down, we have less than a minute. I want to say thank you, once again for tuning into another episode of Generation Motivation, the podcast. Continue to walk in purpose, continue to have courage, and continue to be a positive impact or make a positive impact on your community. I mean, that's what we're here for. And until next time, I'll holla.